You're right there now, boys. Now, my name, as you can see, which has been stitched onto me by some fucking cunt, my name is Spuddy, and I'm here to bring you a public service announcement. Now, first of all, what I'd like to say is COVID-19 is an absolute tosspot, and like I said, I was very worried that it might be ruining fights for me, like a Noe versus John Real Casimiro, and O'Bally versus Daenerys. Now, if these fights do not happen during the springtime, I'll be a very unhappy fucking Spud. But with that said, there are other fucking fights I don't have to watch. Like Shakur Stevenson versus Miguel Mariaga. I can fucking compose myself for a few more fucking months before I have to watch that load of shite. Now, they've cancelled Maris Breidis versus Junior Dorticus, the hard-hitting Cuban versus the defensively sound hard-hitting Latvian, in a fight that will culminate in who the number one currently is in the cruiserweight division. Now, both of them, they suffered loss in the last World Boxing Super Series. With Junior Dorticus, he suffered a very fucking tough defeat at the hands of Murat Gassiev, who, like I said in the previous video, had disappeared off the fucking planet after he lost Usyk. And Maris Breidis himself, he only lost one man himself, and that was to Usyk. And Usyk, he scheduled to fight Chisora. But there's a possibility that fight may no longer happen too. So I'm going to be waiting another few months before I fucking see Usyk back in the ring. And Usyk's one of my favourite fighters. Now, to everybody out there, let me ask you this now. Have you ever thought about who might be the best fighters in the world, or per division? Now, my friend Mark, he came up to me and he said, Spuddy, who do you have number one in each of these divisions? So, in the minimum weight division, me personally, I think Wanheng Menioten, he has the best record. But Fresh Mart, he's not a bad fighter now himself. So it's kind of hard to differentiate between the two. But the best victory has to go to Wanheng because he beat the other champion in the division with the IBF belt in Pedro Tadaran, before Tadaran went on to become a champion. So Wanheng Menioten at number one. Now, in the light flyweight division, I think I gotta go with Kenshiro. Now, Kenshiro is a very good fighter, great victories. You could have Canizales, you could have Taiguchi, you could even have Humberto Soto. Not Humberto Soto, whatever his name is, Sota. That dude, Elwin Soto, who beat Heno and Angel Acosta, he's a very good fighter in his own right. But from what I know, he's moving up to 112. I'm not entirely sure. Now, when you go into 112, you have obviously got the two main guys and another guy in there too. So you have Murati Mutlan, and he hasn't taken a defeat since the hands of Nanito Donaire since 2008, and that's 11 years ago, and he's just coming off a win over Akira Higashi. He also holds victories over the likes of John Real Casimiro. So he's definitely a fucking name in the discussion. But he is older now, and he is more susceptible, but he's a very good fighter. You also have Kosai Tanaka. But Kosai Tanaka is said to be moving up to 115 pounds. So for me, with that being said, I feel as though I'm no longer going to rate Kosai if his next fight is at 115 against my boy Kazuto Ioka. So for 112, I've got Julio Cesar Martinez number one. But if Tanaka wasn't moving up, he'd be my number one. So technically I have Tanaka, but for the sake of this, I've got Julio Cesar Martinez. Now, in the 115 pound division, the best victory currently on the resume of any fighter, we do have Chocolatito coming back, and he did get that win over Khalid Jafai. However, Juan Francisco Estrada, with his victory over Sir Scott Sorrung Visai, as my boy Mark calls Kit Kat, Sir Scott Sorrung Visai, I have him now. I have Estrada, number one. Now, at 118, the unified champion, going into the fight with Casimiro, he won the World Boxing Super Series. Nawa Inoue is number one, three-weight world champion. Now, at 122 pounds, I've got Akhmadaliev. He's coming off of a win over Danny Roman, the best win in the division. I know you could give it to Emmanuel Navarre that day, but he's the unified champion. So if you want to become number one in that division, you got to go and beat the unified champion. Now at 126 on skill, I really rate that kid Shakur Stevenson. On overall resume, I think Josh Warrington did very well with his wins over Lee Selby, over Kid Galahad, another good fighter, and Carl Frampton. And Lee Selby, now he's up at lightweight, he got a good victory over Ricky Burns too. So that's even better for Josh Warrington. But for me, due to longevity and over his win over the kid who just beat Tevin Farmer at 130 pounds, his name is escaping me now, but that doesn't really matter. Jojo Diaz, over his wins over Jojo Diaz as well, I gotta give Gary Russell the number one in the featherweight division. Now going up to 130 pounds, my number one now, Miguel Berchel's definitely probably my number one now. I think he knocks them all the fuck out. My only problem with Miguel Berchelt is that he isn't actively seeking unifications. Take the likes of Jamel Herring. That's kind of a problem now for me. And also at the same point, you have other people in the division. Leo Santa Cruz has stepped up there, but Miguel Berchelt's the number one at 130 pounds. Make no mistake about it. He knocks them all spark out. Now, if you go up to 135, Vasily Lomachenko, he's number one. You've got a lot of prospects. You have guys who are picking up belts, but he has the best victories in the division, and he's a pound-for-pound fighter. His last victory over Luke Campbell was beautiful. He beat Jorge Linares beautifully, and he beat Pedraza. Those are the best victories in that division. Teofimo Lopez is my number two, and if he can knock off Loma, he's going to possibly be entered into a pound-for-pound list. But that's in the future. Now, moving up to 140 pounds, this is a tight one. You've got two unified champions, but on the sake of the fact that he won the World Boxing Super Series and he beat Regis Prograis, Josh Taylor's my number one. Now, my number one at 147 pounds. Now, guys, as you can tell, I do this based on resume, and this may piss a lot of people off, but based on resume, my number one, is going to be Manny Pacquiao. I'm keeping Pacquiao at number one at welterweight. Now, the reason I don't have Terence Crawford is his last few fights aren't as good as Manny's in the division, if I'm being honest with you. And that's just for me. Jeff Horn, it's not as good of a victory now. And that's his best victory at 147. And this is only on your performances in your division. So at 147, it's Pacquiao. He beat Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman was the unified champion. Now, Errol Spence, he is a unified champion now himself. But he beat a guy coming down 2 weight divisions. And he beat a lightweight. And on top of that, he beat a dude who had already lost Keith Thurman. And to pick up his belt, Sean Porter picking up his belt, he beat a dude Keith Thurman already beat. So Manny Pacquiao, at the age he is, he's number one until someone knocks him off. So either Spence or Pacquiao need to beat Manny to become... Spence or Crawford need to beat Manny to become the number one at welterweight. But for me right now, it's still Manny. But on skill, I have Crawford, and on titles, I have Spence. So I'm separating it based on the best win. That's how I'm doing it. It's Manny. Going up to 154 pounds, the division's a hotbed of shit. So Jermell Charlo, his win over Tony Harrison is currently the best win right now. And then I actually have Jason Rosario right now, and there's Landy Lara. And the rest of the guys need to fight it out to prove their worth. And there's Landy Lara's old as hell. I'm looking forward to that Teixeira fight. I hope it happens. Where you've got Teixeira taking on Brian Castano. But at 154 pounds, I've got Jermell Charlo. Now at 160 pounds, he's 2 victories over Canelo. He's got 2 victories over Triple G on paper. I gave him the second. The first one, you could say Triple G won the first fight. I wouldn't blame you at whatsoever. But it's got to be Saul Canelo Alvarez. Now, at 168 pounds, the best victory, absolutely none of them. There is no out-and-out winner. So I'm going to give it to Canelo because he's about to go and beat Billy Joe fucking Saunders. And after he beats him, it's going to be Canelo. So Canelo at 160 and at 168. Now up at 175, Artur Beterbiev. He's the number one. Bivol a great fighter, but he doesn't have the same name as an Alexander Vojtic. However, he does have better overall names because Beterbiev's overall resume is pretty weak. But he has knocked out every opponent, Callum Johnson, etc. But that win over Vojtic, who beat long-standing champion Adonis Stevenson for the belt. Now, At 200 pounds, the resumes are hard to argue with, but I've still got Maris Briedis. I've got him number one. Junior Dorticus, he needs to beat Briedis to be considered my number one. And he gave Usyk the best fight in the entire tournament last time out. And in the heavyweight division, my number one fighter doesn't exist. I have a number two, and they're both tied for it in Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury. The winner of that fight, just like with Briedis and Dorticus for me really, but the winner of Joshua and Fury will be the out and out winner of the heavyweight division. Until that happens, until Fury can come through his fights, and the other dude can come through his fights in AJ, I'm not going to be picking a number one at heavyweight. They need to beat each other. Beating other fighters don't prove jack shit. Until you two can prove each other, there's always going to be an argument between two different sets of fans. Now, I want to see you two guys get it on, and the winner will be considered the undisputed lineal heavyweight champion of the world. The first time since Lennox Lewis after fighting against Evander Holyfield and the first time in the 4-belt era. That would make Spuddy a happy Spud. Now, that's pretty much all I got for you, but that for me is the best fighter in every division. So I hope everybody appreciates that, and they go and have a look and they tell me their picks as well. Who do you have? I went from 105 all the way up to heavyweight off the top of my head who the number one is. Now, have a good one, guys. I gotta go because I don't like how this dude's looking at me in this epidemic. He's looking at me like he's about to fucking roast me in the oven, and I don't fucking like that. Stop fucking looking at me like that, you big fat fucking ugly cock.